Welcome to NARmovies. I am Nathan and the movie is Maidentrip. Okay. First things first, I know you're wondering, where is Rose? Where's the R in NAR? Well, it turns out Rose and I are pretty busy people and we just couldn't find the time to watch a movie together this week. We tried to move our schedule around as much as we could and it wasn't going to happen. So we were planning on just taking the week off of NARmovies, but I had a break this afternoon, so I got on Netflix to look for a movie and here we are. Which brings us to Maidentrip, this awesome movie. Okay, so first I was just scrolling through Netflix looking for something to look at, and I love adventure. I like to think that I'm an explorer who just for whatever reason has been trapped in the Midwest his whole life. But I love exploring, I love going from city to city, and adventure stories have always been my favorite stories to hear about. So I saw this movie called Maidentrip, and the Netflix description was that it was a documentary about a 14-year-old girl who circumnavigated the globe by herself to become the youngest person to do a solo circumnavigation around the world. And I was like, how come I didn't hear about this? I should probably check out this documentary. And Maidentrip, yeah, super awesome. So the movie is the story of Laura Dekker, a 14 to 16-year-old girl who ends up becoming, spoiler alert, the youngest person to solo circumnavigate the globe. The documentary is inspiring and beautiful and entertaining and hilarious. Laura is quirky and weird and rebellious and an adventurer and an explorer and a sailor and just so awesome. She's so cool. A little bit about her backstory. She was actually born on a boat in New Zealand, spent the first 5 years of her life on a boat. So living on a boat for her is very natural. It's what she's used to. She's done it her entire life. She grew up in Holland, I believe. Yeah, she's Dutch. Well, you know, she's a boat person. But she grew up in Holland. She speaks Dutch. And yeah, when she was 12, I think, she wanted to become the youngest person to circumnavigate the globe. She got her first sailboat, a little sailing dinghy, when she was 9, and then just had been sailing her entire life. And so when she was 12, she wanted to do this crazy thing, but the Dutch government and actually a bunch of governments around the world were not for it. They said, what is the length at which a government can allow a young person to just do, have reckless behavior and endanger themselves? I mean, sailing around the world is no simple task. I mean, storms and stuff, especially by yourself, like you need help to get through such a big challenge like that. So anyway, she ends up fighting the Dutch government for a year. Everything from they were trying to take custody away from her dad, who supported this crazy dream that she had. And so yeah, it was a big problem. They fought for it for a year before they finally won, and she was able to go on this journey. But it's good that she did, because she was super gung-ho. She didn't do it for the fame or for whatever. She just wanted to know that she could do that. She wanted to break through that boundary. Like I said, for such a young person, she's so radically inspirational and just very driven. But since they ended up going, she really wanted to do this, and so she probably would have just jumped on the boat and done it, But since they had to fight for a year, she ended up kind of getting attention for this, and so she was able to get in touch with these people who wanted to make this documentary, and I imagine they spent time training her about how to use the cameras, because she did all of the shooting herself while she's on the boat. She's completely by herself, so she did all of the shooting completely alone, as well as just all of the sailing and the whole everything. The trip took her 2 years, which blows my mind, from 14 to 16. 14 and a half to 16 and a half. She made like 20 stops or something like that in different cities and stayed on islands for a week or two here and there. But basically she spent 2 years by herself on a sailboat in the middle of oceans and stuff like that. Absolutely crazy. So anyway, she had to fight it first, but it ended up being good because less people probably would have heard about it if she didn't spend so much time, if it wasn't built up so much or whatever. So anyway, she eventually gets to go. She's 14 and a half when she finally is able to go on this journey. And yeah, she just does it. There's this point where, okay, she leaves from Holland and goes down to the Canary Islands. And she says for her, even though if you look at a map, that's like the tiniest little nothing over the entire journey around the globe she ends up making. She talks about how when she hit the Canary Islands, she knew that this was a big deal. It really set in because in her mind, the Canary Islands as a sailing point were always something so far away from Holland. Something so far that like she probably would never make it that far. And when she finally is sailing past and she's all by herself and she's 14 years old, she's like, wow, this is really happening. It's these amazing points set in where you really see like the psyche, the psychological developments that are happening. The character growth in this movie is insane. But at 3 points, she has to do ocean crossings. So she does the Atlantic, or 4 maybe? Well, she crosses the Atlantic, and then she has to cross the Pacific, and then she crosses the Indian Ocean, and then she crosses the South Atlantic. So she ends up doing 4 major crossings. Each of these take weeks. I think when she crosses the Indian Ocean, it takes her like a month and a half of just literally not seeing land and being completely isolated from anyone for a month and a half. It's just insane. So during this 2 years, especially it's such a growing mentally part of your life from 14 and a half to 16 and a half, she's completely by herself, and you get to see from this one-on-one perspective of her just like vlogging herself while she's on this journey. You really get to see all these different aspects about her. Sorry. You really get to see all these just amazing, deep, different aspects about her personality. Like for being so young, she truly is fearless. Like she is an explorer, adventurer. When she's doing the Atlantic crossing is when she hits her first big storm, and she's shooting and has like cameras set up, and you just see like the boat becoming like airborne off of these giant waves, and like waves coming crashing over her ship, and like she's going left and right, and at one point you see her getting like thrown across the cabin, but the entire time she's going, woo, yeah! She's like she's on a roller coaster, but she's completely alone, 14 years old, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with no one around who could possibly help her. Like no one would find her for days or weeks if something bad happened to her, and she's just like, whoa, this is awesome! And even when the storm stops, there's a scene where she's just like, man, that was fun. But okay, so you see this like super exciting part, but then you also see these really deep parts where during that same first stretch on the Atlantic crossing, it's like the longest period she's gone in her life without seeing people. I think she's been sailing for a few weeks and is somewhere in the middle of the Atlantic. And there's this amazingly beautiful shot where these dolphins have found her boat, and they're just kind of sailing along with her, like jumping up and out of the water, and she's videoing them, and while she's videoing them, she's crying and talking about how beautiful it is, and how beautiful it is to be like connected with nature, and like her and these animals are essentially doing the same thing right now. They're just traveling across the Atlantic Ocean and just like, you know, having fun. But at the same point, there's kind of this darkness where she's silent for a while, and then she says, I hope they stick around for a while. The company's really nice. So it's like she's so lonely by herself in the middle of the ocean that just these dolphins swimming along with her are like bringing her to tears. Just like the beauty of everything setting in, and probably like the extreme isolated loneliness and all of that all at once. I can't even imagine what that would feel like. This story reminded me a lot of one of my favorite books I read a while back. It's called The Incredible Voyage, and it's by Tristan Jones. He's the man he's the first person, he may be still the only, I'm not sure, but he was the first person to sail both the highest and lowest navigable waters on the planet. And he wrote a book called The Incredible Voyage about it, which is great because it's like half the actual stuff that happened and half ridiculous sailor stories mixed in. So it's really fun to read because it's pretty obvious like which is real and which is made up. Like he talks at one point, he's in this like part of the Amazon jungle that no one's ever been in, and there's dinosaurs that exist still or something, or like these big monsters are chasing him around and stuff. But books and stories like that, ever since I was a kid, have just made me love, well, first off, sailing in the ocean. I grew up having my family has a lake house in Maine, so I spent my summers in Maine on the coast and around the ocean, around the water, growing up, and I've always loved the ocean and stories about sailors. And honestly, this movie made me really, really jealous. I would love more than anything to go on some kind of adventure like this. I think it would be so cool, so much fun. Yeah, we'll see. Doing this YouTube thing. If there was internet access all around the ocean, that would be great. I could do this. We could do this from anywhere. Just need Netflix and an internet access. Throw me on the ocean and we will be golden. Yeah, so Maidentrip, Laura Dekker, one of my new heroes, even though she's a lot younger than me. She's got to be probably like 19 or 20 by now. It was 2010 to 2012 is when her thing went on. So I guess she's probably like 19, 20 maybe. Laura Dekker, I would love to meet you someday. You are one of my new heroes. You're just an adventurous, exploring, awesome human. Yeah, you sailed, it ended up being 27,000 miles in like 519 days, by herself, just sailing around the world. Absolutely incredible. Yeah, I would love to meet her someday. So yeah, thanks for checking out the movie, or if you haven't yet, check it out. I definitely recommend it. If you need to be inspired or motivated about anything, it's great. If you just want to feel awful about how pathetic and boring your life is, this movie will also make that happen. A little bit of housekeeping stuff before we go. Rose and I have been talking about this channel a lot. We've put out a few episodes now, and we know some of you are out there watching, but we don't really know how you're watching. I guess what I'm saying is, if you could just do us a huge favor, just let us know in the comments. If you're watching this video, especially if you're still watching, let us know in the comments why you're here. Have you seen this movie and you wanted to hear someone talk about it, or you've heard about this movie and you wanted to hear if it was good or not, or you just like me so much that you don't care what I'm talking about, you just want to see me talking about it. Probably not that one, but anyway, yeah, let us know down below so that we can help kind of gear our channel towards what it is that the people who are watching it, you, actually want. So yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Adios. Bye.